addressing one of the biggest challenges in the Agile transformation, because 3 out of 4 Agile transformations fail because the culture doesn't change with it. Transformation doesn't come from PowerPoint slides, he states. It comes by changing behavior and building new habits. So in this keynote, you will learn about the Agile Kata, a unique and powerful tool. So let me introduce our speaker, live from New York, here in our center in Graz, Joe Krebs.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you. All right. Thank you.
So our technician will
Yes.
change
All
the
right.
presentation for you.
Thank you.
So in the meantime, because Agile is for some people a buzzword, how would you define what is Agile?
Well, it's very interesting where there is a dictionary definition of Agile. That is the lowercase a, Agile. And that's not what I mean. I mean the capital A, Agile. And that's really what a value of principles and things of how we behave. So it's all about value, the delivery, the adaptability, but also quality, not to forget that. So Agile with a capital A incorporates much, much more than a lowercase a, which just means nimble, flexible.
What a beautiful definition. So it's your
Here we go.
stage.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Alrighty. Awesome. Thank you. It's going to be very, very hard to follow him. Okay. I don't have a rap. I don't have any kind of music. I had a movie, but that doesn't really work on PDF. So it's going to be a little bit of material to look at. I want to give you guys an impulse. I was asked to talk a little bit about Agile Kata, and my background is I'm originally from Germany, and this is really embarrassing to say. I cannot do this in German anymore. So everything, my entire Agile career happened in the United States. That's where I live now. So all of those terminologies and so forth are just like manifested in my brain as English. So anyway, I'm going to do this in English, but if you want to ask something in German, or if you want to do small talk or mingle or karaoke or something, we can do that in German. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so here we go. Yeah, so I'm extremely proud to have this book out. It was a 2-year project, to be totally honest. I had some really, really amazing people that kept me going in writing this. The journey for me with Agile Kata started around 2018 when I got some really, really difficult questions from clients. And one of them was, and I just want to let that sink in, somebody asked me a question after a series of Scrum trainings. What is the process of introducing Scrum into our organization? So it's not about teaching a team and doing it with a team, but what is the process of changing the culture of an organization towards Scrum? And I had no good answers at that point. And I started my research. I ended up with something called Kata. And I'm going to talk a lot about Kata here. And I'm going to show you what the connect is between Kata and Agile. And once I saw the connection between Kata and Agile, I was so fascinated that I started writing about it. First, a white paper, and that white paper went out, and I just put it out on the internet, and I was like, okay, so I just want to share those, like, I don't know, 6 pages or something. And shortly after this was released, somebody actually reached out to me from Japan and said, can I translate this for you? I said, sure, go ahead and do this. So we'll publish it, right? Shortly after, Italian, German. I think we have one Czech translation and everything. So it was fascinating. No German, by the way. I didn't do that. So anyway, we saw here all these translations. So I realized there's a momentum. This problem does not only exist for myself. There's more people out there. They seem to have similar issues as I have. So, and I just recently published this book. I think it is only available as a print in the US right now, but you can see the e-version or something like that. And we have some copies here to get, but soon it's going to be out there in Europe as well. So I want to talk a little bit about this. And I also wanted to connect the topic of Rethink, Reimagine, and Revitalize with the Agile the conference theme. I wanted to connect. So my goal here today is to give you an impulse to set the stage for you for this conference for the next 2 days, to think about all of those things that are at your fingertips, which you can use or not, right? So this is really what Agile Kata is all about, buffet style. For all of those practices and techniques, you can incorporate. So that's what I want to do. So, but go there. I do want to say I'm going to do a little excursion into another topic that is like the lead-in. So we need to talk about continuous improvement before we can really talk about Kata, right? And we'll get to that. So I'm going to repeat the, I'll get back to this theme here in a short while. Okay. I don't know how many of you guys have watched the fight between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul in November. Anybody here in the room who watched this? Oh, here we go. Some hands are going up. Interesting. Okay, not that many. Here in Austria, it was broadcasted live on Netflix. And I'm going to use Netflix here as a story because when we're talking about lean, if we're talking about Kata, very often we talk about Toyota. And I don't want to do that today, right? Because there are other good stories out there as well. So I want to talk a little bit about Netflix. So I don't know how much you saw of this movie, and maybe you had some glitches here and there when you watched it on Netflix, because there was some reported on that. Now, it's very interesting is that the audience was 65 million people have watched this fight. Me included, and for all of those hands that just went up, you guys were part of that group. 65 million globally have watched this fight. I don't know if I want to call this a fight, to be totally honest. I think they were just dancing around each other the whole time. 38 million watched it in the US. Yeah, here we go. We're back with some audio issues here. We have 38 million in the United States alone. That is a massive amount of people that are dialing in and watching a live event. What's also interesting is it was the first event of Netflix that was live streamed. So before that, everything was just content. So just think about that. The companies got on, huge hype. Mike Tyson is coming out. Everybody's interested. And here we go. 38 million people tuned in. A lot of people signed up and get a subscription to watch this fight. The result was weird. The press release after the fight, you can see I just picked 3 as an example. A lawsuit, 50 million. Glitches. Significant issues on massive fight night. It was really bad press after this fight. A lot of people complained. We got into this. We bought a subscription. Glitches didn't work. Some interviews for me where I was, it worked kind of okay. But there were a lot of. So we have some technical issues. I don't know what it is, but I hope you guys can hear me okay. Anyway, so what do you think some organization that would start off with a first streaming event in sports, live sports, do after a day like this, having news like this? It would say, let's go back to the drawing board, huh? We got to figure this out. We need to really do some improvement, etc. Let's go back to the drawing board might be one of those concerns. Well, Netflix actually did something 4 weeks later that was even bigger. They actually took the NFL live, 2 sporting events. They actually had 2 NFL games on Christmas. On the 25th, so the first time ever, the NFL actually started off with a 2-game special that actually would attract even more people to this show. And they said, why don't we have a halftime show with Beyonce? So that's even more. So there were lots of people tuned in, not as many as to the Tyson fight, but lots of people tuned in. It was record NFL viewership live streamed. Now that was 2025. 2024, 2014, CBS had a spin-off of Paramount Plus. So over 10 years ago, they already started live streaming, and they only had 9 million at their Super Bowl, the biggest event in the United States. So just like to just put this all into relation here, what's going on and what this company achieved. So they went, so for 4 weeks after the Mike Tyson fight, they went right there. So this is pretty bold. You would probably say, wow, what that takes guts to do that. And actually, guess what happened? Netflix avoids repeat. Here are the news. Netflix Christmas miracle, right? They pulled off a Christmas miracle. The press came back. So within those 4 weeks, the company got their act together. From the Mike Tyson, entirely recovered for the next event. We can even say the Mike Tyson event was almost like a test run for what was really important, NFL, because these were playoff games to enter the playoff for the NFL. So it's a pretty interesting company if you look at this. Well, it's not how they started. They didn't start with live streaming. I don't know if you remember the days where Netflix shipped DVDs around the world. In 1998, they started a mail order business, shipping DVDs, one flat fee, and they put Blockbuster out of business. Pretty bold back then, right? So you would say that, so the Mike Tyson fight was not their very first bold moment, right? Well, in 2007, they did another bold move. They actually started streaming. In 2007, so just 10 years after they started their mail business, 2007, they started, let's stream content. They did something, they annoyed everybody by actually saying, this is our future. We're not going to support the DVDs anymore. We're going to stream. A lot of people at that point still had 14.4K modems, right? And they couldn't even watch these movies. They were annoyed, but they kept going. They said that is the future. We will have high-speed internet. Streaming and performance is not going to be our issue. And they were very successful with that. In 2013, 6 years after that, they started, let's produce our own shows. House of Cards, 2013, a Netflix original series. So it's a pretty interesting company. It seems like they're constantly making these kind of moves. They're constantly making these kind of big challenges they have ahead of them and what they want to do. They're far away now from shipping DVDs out of a warehouse. They're now producing content. It's amazing. Just in reference here, 2024, they released 589 shows. They produce them. This is Netflix original content. Compared to Disney, 20, and Apple is hard to find out the right number there because they're partnering with a lot, 50. So they're a big player in that content market. So the step towards live sports was not really that big. It just felt big for us because we've never seen this before on Netflix. It's just a new step. Now, what's interesting here is it's not like that somebody woke up and said, let's do a Mike Tyson fight, or let's do the NFL game as an additional thing to producing our own shows. This happened years ago, that somebody actually started, I think we should go into live sports. And they started with continuous improvement. And if we're really looking at this company, they've been doing this for the whole time. So behind the scenes, and I'm having a consumer perspective on this, not a consulting perspective or any kind of insights. In addition to that, I'm just watching the company and said, this is pretty amazing what they do. Now, if you took one share, if you bought one share of Netflix in 2002, which the price was $15, right, you would be looking at $13,600 today, okay? Because there were several stock splits, you would be owning 14 right now. And that was last week. I took a end of day closing. So this might have come down again a little bit or not, but this is the number. So there is a representation of what's the future of that company. So I just wanted to use this as an alternative to what we often see in Toyota. So how do they do that? Well, Netflix is here, a couple of news now about where they're going after their latest financial reporting last week. I took that as an example. They're like all-time high. No, they say not. This is going to continue, leaving the rest in the dust. Absolutely here. Netflix has done everything right. And they're hopefully going to continue doing this. But we don't know. It's a journey, right? So how do they do that? From their website, actually, they're looking for a dream team when you go in the career section. And what's interesting is, actually, I don't want to read this, obviously, to you here. You can look this up yourself. But what's interesting is, if we're just looking at the last two steps here, you can learn rapidly and eagerly. Curiosity is a key thing for them when they're looking at talent, right? They're also looking at the resilience. How quickly can you adapt? Ideas, be humble about it, make some tough decisions. So, and they're living by this culture within this organization. So this is not a miracle. This is really not a miracle. They're just saying like, oh, by accident, they have like this pool of people and something amazing comes out of it. They're hiring for it. They're creating a culture of continuous improvement. If you don't want to, look only at Netflix in terms of continuous improvement, Dick Fosbury. I don't know if you're familiar with Dick Fosbury. He was the guy who invented the Fosbury flop. Right? He was the first person in Rome, 1968, during the Olympic Games, which went over the high jump bar this way. Before that, every high jump was done using the straddle technique, where the person would use the two legs. Rick Fosbury was the first one who would actually go backwards, the backflip over the bar. if you look at the video, and you can certainly go on YouTube, you will see in the audience, like people have their mouth open. They're like, what just happened here in front of us? He won the gold medal in a high jump. And what's interesting is about him is that this was not a secret. He was actually publicly practicing this, and he was just, for years, he has been trying this. It was not his goal to go backwards. It came out over all the time of practicing. He just constantly thought there's gotta be a better way to get over that bar. And what's also interesting is that hardly anybody won the gold medal with the old technique after that. Today, this is the standard of high jump. There's nobody going to the Olympics anymore doing the straddle. All right, so that was 1968. So continuous improvement is a key thing. Now, flight, 1903 was the first flight. When I saw that number, 1903, first flight, 1919 was the first transatlantic flight. I'm just like baffled by looking at these years, how much improvement was done between 1903 and 1919, the transatlantic flight. It's amazing. 1961, we went to space, and 1969 to the moon. In 66 years, we went from flying a few meters on a beach in North Carolina, putting a man on the moon. I just think that's fascinating. But in between, many, many, many small steps, continuous improvement. Now, I don't know if you're all familiar with the location we are in. I did some research. 1913, the Flughafen Graz-Talerhof was founded very early on. That's where we are today. This is the old airport of Graz, so that's why we have a plane on top of the hotel. Amazing, right? 1913, airport Graz, amazing. All right, you might think, hey, some innovations are just inventions, they came out by accident, right? And I researched those too, right? There were some, like I think a lot of people know about the Post-it note, was invented by accident because somebody had bad glue. And it's like, hey, that glue actually is good to move things around and turn into a Post-it. The same with Listerine, Coca-Cola, the popsicle, Velcro, and potato chips, all, so to speak, accidents in terms of how these things came to market. But in reality, when you research all of those, they have a huge component of continuous improvement behind it. None of them were ready for anything when they were invented. It was just a coincidence. So that is part of our mindset. So rethink, reimagine, revitalize. So how does this all connect? I want to show you something about scientific thinking. I want to show you a pattern, that is the Agile Kata. I want to show you a pattern, how you can use that pattern to break certain habits within your life, personally, but also collectively within an organization. And that kind of culture creates exactly that kind of mindset of experimentation. As you see here, scientific thinking, and obviously agility. We want to reimagine agility and say, hey, maybe there is a process out there we have, and maybe we can reimagine that. So I'm linking those topics to maybe we're using a process, but we can refine our process and make it something better. And I also want to talk a little bit about cultures that emerge of that as a revitalization. So let's start here with scientific thinking first, right? Setting the stage. What is Agile Kata? It's a tool or a pattern to continuously improve agility. So I'm going to show you a picture, and I would like to collect from you guys an initial feeling, something you immediately feel when you see that picture I'm going to show you now. I hope you can see that from all the way back there with the sun. What do you think? See this picture over there? What's your first initial reaction, gut feeling? What's going on when you see that picture? Dark and cold? Creepy? Afraid? Yeah. A threat? Yes. Okay. Say it again. Violation? Okay. So threat, yeah. Cool. Art? Ooh, okay. Interesting, right? So we hear like strong words here, right? Just by looking at a picture. Threat, for example, right? It's like, oof, right, I don't know. It's like, what's on the other side of that tunnel over there? Maybe you're like, I don't know if I'm comfortable there right now, going through that. How many of you guys would say, I've got to go through this? You know, I'm going to walk to the other side. Maybe some of you guys might say, look, let's go for it, right? Others might say, maybe there's another way to go. Okay? So what just happened is it's in our brains. We have been in dangerous situations before. We have been taught and told that what dangerous situations are, and we immediately react to pictures like this. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. It's self-protection, right? So initial reactions to something. And that is rooted in evolution. So we see a lion or any kind of dangerous animal, and you would say, I better run, I better go, because otherwise I'm not going to be around. And without running away from dangerous animals, we wouldn't be sitting here right now. Okay, our ancestors did us a favor of running away from dangerous animals. And that's a good thing. That's in our brains. Danger, go. This is related to neurological pathways. I'm not a neuroscientist, but if you're looking at that bookshelf of neuroscience, it's very interesting because when we're depicting the lines that are connections between in our brain, some of those are a little thinner and some of them are very thick. And those thick ones are the ones we're basically on autopilot, right? So I see something and I react. And that's what we're also doing in the corporate world, right? We're doing something, we're having habits, we're doing certain things in certain ways. And those things, every time we're doing them, they're getting stronger. That is the dilemma here, right? So every time we're repeating a behavior, it's becoming stronger in our brain. The chances I will do that again is very, very likely because I've done it before. So we call them superhighways, right? So maybe, if you're going to work every day, you might be taking the same road to work. Maybe you have the same morning routine. Very typical, right? Where it's like, okay, there's a pattern every day. And the more you do it, the more it becomes a superhighway. Where I live, there are bears, right? So if you go into the woods, you need to be ready to encounter a bear. It's very, very common, right? So there is a sign. And when you see that sign, it's a typical reaction. And in this case, running is not a good idea, right? From a bear, you actually should be approaching the bear. And by no chance, you should be going on a tree. And we actually had that kind of situation with kids. It was like, what do you do when you see a bear? Go on a tree. No, don't go on a tree, right? So they actually, for all of those things where the superhighway is super, super strong, we need signs. It's like, don't do that. We need to train you in a different behavior. The same is true for like airplane instructions. I don't know if you've ever seen this before, right? First, put the mask on yourself before you help somebody else. We have to be trained in that. The problem is we don't practice this. So I'm doubtful, unfortunately, that this will work in an emergency, right? Because we are not practicing it. Just by looking at a piece of paper and saying, okay, I get it, that's not how we learn. We need to practice it. So Kata comes in with some form of practice routines to say, like, not only do I want to break a pattern or want to challenge a pattern and a habit, I also want to practice it. And that's all related to our neurological pathways. In Chicago alone, 344 people died in the early 2000s in 1 year based on being doored. I don't know if you're familiar with that concept. Dooring means you get out of your car, you open the car door, and a bicyclist hits the door. I don't know if that ever happened to you guys. I hope not. But 344 people in Chicago alone died. It's very hard to get some really good data on this because it's a bicycle accident. So it's not distinguished between why it happened and so on. But that is one that we found. That's almost every day we have in that year we have an incident like this. So the Dutch actually do something different. They open their door with the right hand. They're actually being trained in early ages when you go and actually exit a car to open your car door with the right arm instead of the left arm. And because of that, you're turning your body around and you're removing the blind spot. It has actually a name. It's called the Dutch reach. So everybody's referring to this as the Dutch reach. You know what's funny? The Dutch don't call it Dutch reach. They call it, that's how we open car doors. It's interesting, right? So it's like the models, they're just like, that's how they're being trained. It's like, why are we talking about this? This is just how we do it. But you have to practice it. So maybe that is something you take away from the conference. Put some stickies up on your steering wheels, like, nope, not with the left arm anymore. Take the right one. You can save some lives. All right. So here's a quick thing we can do here ourselves. Now, if you're already in that position right now here in this room, I ask you just to redo it for yourself, but I'm gonna ask you guys to just fold your arms. If you guys can just do me a favor and fold your arms. I know it's not a good position to be in, but just for sake of demonstration over here, if you're already in that position, just do it one more time. If you weren't, if you were already in that position. Okay, that was easy, right? Pretty easy, right? Folding arms. Why don't we just do it the other way around? How did that go? How was that experience? Folding the arms the other way around. What words come to mind? I see some smiles. I see some re-practicing, rethinking. What else comes to mind? How does it feel when you do this? Super strange, uncomfortable. Can't hear you, but a little louder. Something's wrong. Yeah. Well, some things you would hear in agile transformations. Feels weird, uncomfortable, strange. You know, I have to think about it. Doesn't come natural, right? So that's an interesting thing. Quick habit changes, right? It's like, hey, this is how we're used to how folding our arms. Okay, so here's something I would like to do with you guys very quick. And Phil is helping me with this very quick. Phil has 3 dice. I gave him 3 dice before. And 3 6-sided dice. Just really not, there's no, just regular dice we have. And we got to roll those dice, and we're going to see what the face value is, the sum of the 3 dice. So it's got to be a number between 3 and 18, right? So that's our expectation over there. I just want you to think about one single number between 3 and 18, right? Just think about that. It's just your personal number we have, and I'm going to have Phil roll those dice, okay? And then we'll just see what we have as a result, okay? All righty. What do we have? We have
16.
16. We have 16. Who in the room had 16? Anybody? All right, we got a 16. 116 only. Wow. Ooh, okay. Why have so many people not 16? Why? Only one person has 16. Why were we all wrong? Chances, yeah. But it was between 3 and 18, right? So it's just very limited number of possibilities, right? But it's a chance. We didn't have a lot of context. That was the problem, right? It's luck, pure luck, to come up with a number between 3 and 18. Okay, I'm going to give you a little context, and then we'll see what you guys think about this one here. I'll give you context. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And then I'm just going to ask you, what do you think happens after 10? It's more context now, right? It's not just rolling dice. 12? A lot of people, 12, yeah? Okay, all right. So we have more context now. We're making a decision. The decision is it's going to be 12. Actually, it's a recurring sequence. It's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We're just used to that. We're just thinking it should be a 12, right? Because it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. The assumption in our brain just said it's got to be a 12. It's got to be a 12, right? But it's not, okay? I'm just going to give you some scribbles here. Does this make sense at all? I don't know. I don't know if you guys can make sense out of this. It's just a bunch of stuff here. It's nothing, right? Just scribbles, right? No? Does this make sense to somebody? What is it? All right. Does anybody start the sentence with this message shows? Okay. It doesn't say this message shows. It's something different, right? What just happened in our brains? We assume things, right? It's a good thing. So we can somehow make sense out of the sentence, even though it's not there, right? It's not there, but it's like this message shows you what our brain is capable of doing and so forth. Pretty cool. All right, so our brain can do really good things. Now, want to hear something really strange? I thought like, okay, this is really, really the strength of humans, that we can do this. And I took this text and put it in ChatGPT. It did it too. It did it too. Okay. All right. I give you a sentence. 50% of the information is covered. 50%. I don't know. Can you guys still make sense out of this? All right. What do we see here? Our brain can do amazing stuff. And that's true. Our brain can do amazing stuff. Okay. 60% covered. 60% cover of the information. Are you sure you can do this? I hear here. Okay. Is that also what you guys see back there? Are you sure you can do this? Actually, 60% covered. No. You want to see something really, really strange? I'm going to go back a slide, right? We know it's not, are you sure you can do this? We know it, right? Who still sees, are you sure you can do this? Isn't it weird? It's not there, but my brain still thinks it's, are you sure you can do this? All right, so that's something we need to be aware of when we're working in these organizational blind spots. If we're assuming things, if we're looking at trajectory of things, especially if goals and things like that are further out in time. So we do want to take a look a little bit at Kata, and I want to give you obviously an impulse of how you can tackle those challenges. So in Kata, it's 4 steps. I can show you those 4 steps, but please don't walk out of this room and take away that this is super simple, going out just 4 steps. That's it. The world is simple like that. It's not. Very hard to do. Lots of practices and patterns that are complementing these 4 steps. But I want to give you an idea of how you can approach problem solving with these 4 basic steps. So basically what Mike Rother, when he published the book 2009, Toyota Kata, took out from Toyota, right? So he researched Toyota for many, many years. And he found out that Kata, behind the scenes, is actually how the organization thinks. That is the culture of the organization that invented, if you want to see it this way, influenced Agile, us as a community, because even Agile has its roots in Toyota production system and continuous improvement. So basically what I was saying, the first step you need to do is you identify a challenge. And that challenge at Toyota is very often given by leadership. So leadership says, what is the challenge we are trying to achieve? So that challenge is far out. So we're making a big, big step into the future first and say, like, what is the challenge? So there's a challenge statement, and that could be we want to go into live sports. I want to go over the high jump bar in a different way. I want to revolutionize any kind of online streaming and content production. So we're having these kind of challenges we're going to go after. So understanding the direction or challenge. Keep in mind, it doesn't say create a master plan, right? In Kata, you maneuver with a compass, not with a map. The second step is, and this is really where it's getting scientific, if you want to call it this, right? Is really that you're saying, like, before you go and approach any challenge you have been given, think about where you currently are, right? So that's an important step. So whenever you go and join a sports team or anything, it's a natural thing to do that somebody evaluates you and says, like, where's your skill level right now before I start coaching with you? But we're not doing that in the business world for whatever reason, right? So here we go. Toyota does that and basically says, well, before we start, where are we? Now, in addition to that, we're not just saying like it feels like we're there. Nope. They're saying, do you have evidence? Do you have data? Do you have material that actually supports your statement? So it's actually very scientific to say we have that many customers right now, or we have this kind of satisfaction report, et cetera, et cetera. And then based on that, we can say how big is the delta between where we are right now and the challenge that is far, far out. This is very natural for agilists, I would assume, to say we can't jump from where we are right now to all the way to the challenge. We need a step in between. In the world of Kata, that's called a target condition. Now, please keep in mind, the word condition is very important because we're talking about 2 states. We're saying I'm in this current state, and I want to be in the next state, right? We're not saying how to get there. We're just saying, like, describe the two states. And then what we do is we say, why don't we engage a team, a group of people? They then say, figure out how to get there. And that is the experimentation piece. So we're building a series of hypotheses and testing and experimenting to succeed faster through our experiments. And yes, it's an experiment, and some of them fail, and some of them will succeed. And you need a culture to implement that, where failure on those experiments is welcome, right? If your organization sees an experiment, a failed experiment, as a failure and has personal repercussions, that's obviously an issue. All right, so that is the four-step sequence. And then once you reach the target condition, you're building the next target condition and you're maneuvering towards your challenge. It's as simple as it could be, and that's how it's being extracted. And just like the Dutch reach, it's not called the Dutch reach in the Netherlands. Kata is not a term at Toyota. It's just the way of how they think. So that's very interesting. So we're extracting that as a word and say that to popularize the way of how they think, we are using the term kata for this, and that's how we're popularizing it. So that's how that is. Okay. So if we're going to reimagining agility, I put a little timeline on, and I like that topic before where we talked about, agile is dead or not, can't be dead. If agile is dead, it would be continuous improvement would be dead. And we know that this is not going to be something we will experience in this world. But 2001 to 2000 and the first decade, the first 10 years, I would actually describe as team agility. We were all obsessed with team agility, bring Scrum to a team, bring Kanban to a team, and so on. All team agility, if we had it on a very, very high level, right? So that was like the first 10 years. That was to 2013. Then we had like this big chunk of agile transformations coming for 10 years, where we actually looked at organizational transformation and agility beyond the team level. And the news is really bad, because 60% of Scrum teams, this is from a podcast I did maybe 2-3 years ago with about zombie Scrum, is actually 60% show very severe signs of zombie Scrum behavior, which is like robotics process behavior. And 40%, the other 40, actually light version. So this is actually pretty bad, right? On the agile transformation piece, we're also not very successful because 76% of agile transformations failed. And 48% of those said that the main reason was culture. Seeing the pattern here, right? The pattern is a person thinks in a certain way, but the culture is the collection of the group of people that work in an organization. Culture is it's not a tangible thing. It's like the people in your organization that work in your facility, and all of them together, that is culture. And we're lacking the skills to do that, and that just brought me to Kata. So where I see, and I'm just using the same arrow, but I'm citing 2023 forward, I'm seeing frameworks as a starting point. It's not the solution, right? Business goals should drive your, as a challenge, should drive your agility. That's your challenge statement on the Kata. Agile transformations is a byproduct. We're not in the business of transforming an organization to agile. We want to solve hard business problems, like getting that NFL game stream. That's our business challenge, and we want to do this with agility. We are not in the business of transforming. We're in the business of solving business problems, right? We want to have a culture of experimentations and to break habits with Kata. So this is my definition of Agile Kata as a universal pattern, because you can do so many things with this to continuously improve agility. Yeah, I'm almost up. I see. I give you one last thought here because I want to bring this together on my last topic of revitalization. So are you turning me off? No. Would usually only happens just before food or something like that, right? No, but here's the challenges of how I think you can utilize and try Agile Kata, and that is my invitation to you. That is, if you're seeing in a team level robotic behavior, zombie scrum, scrum fatigue, sprint fatigue, lack of trust within organizations when teams do that and they're just going to go from sprint to sprint. If you see transformations being rolled out on fancy PowerPoint decks, right? Like we were saying, we're transforming, we're doing this for the next 2-3 years like this. Indications for you are in a waterfall transformation, not in an agile transformation. If your organizations begins copying cultures, they're saying we want to do exactly what this company XYZ is doing, it's not going to work this way. There's a lot of evidence out there. You have to find your own way. And the best way of doing that, in my opinion, is with Kata. Super quick, you're gonna get that slide deck, I would assume, everyone, right? These are some really interesting books in your journey. That was Mike Rother's book in 2009 that kicked it off. If anybody had read the Phoenix Project, 2013, yeah, there is a reference about Kata in it. 2018, Melissa Perry wrote a book, made a huge reference to Kata in product management, right? So 2020, Jeffrey Lyko, who supported me in my book project a lot, he wrote the second edition of a book that has sold over 1 million times, The Toyota Way. Second edition, he incorporated Kata into his book. The first edition did not. The second one does have it. So we're seeing like this momentum going off. There's another way of looking and striving transformations. I got a nice endorsement from Jim Highsmith here for the book and some other ones in there too. All right, so what can you do with Agile Kata? My last thoughts, Agile transformations, yes, you can use it for Agile transformations. I would love it though that you would use it to solve a business problem more so and introducing agility along the way. You can use it to increase business agility, right? So you can use the same 4-step sequence to introduce business agility. As you said, Melissa Perry, product development. Now comes something really, really cool. You can even use it as a team process, right? A team could actually say, we're using these simple 4 steps to navigate through a product development project we're doing together. That is pretty cool. And if somebody is here, change agent, organizational change management, also a tool. It's truly universal. And every time I speak with somebody who says, there's interesting things coming back. It's like, I'm using Agile Kata for this. So it's just more coming. And I'm pretty sure that you will, by using it, identify even more branches where we can explore the Agile Kata with. If you're interested in, I'm just going to interested in any kind of development further, there is a site we have created, agilekata.pro, because we want people to become professionals in this. And there's some material you can download, webcasts to watch and things like that, just to warm up to this idea a little bit more. My main goal is to really take you guys into this conference to all of those topics you're about to hear for the next 2 days, to really think about, how could this help me? Maybe with those simple 4 steps, how could this be organized? You know, we hear a lot of scaling, OKRs or topics like this, wonderful topics that connect very, very well with Kata. And yeah, and I just want to let you guys go into the conference. I know I'm a little bit over time, but Phil also took 3 minutes away from me in the beginning. So it's not all on me, right? But anyway, so I did more, yeah.
You're polite. I took way more.
Okay, thank you. Do we even have time for questions? No.
Yes,
we
of
do.
course, for
okay.
one.
Okay, one question we have, okay.
But I think the people want to say thank you for your beautiful talk and keynote.